The bass drum hit my chest like a physical blow. Each beat resonated through my ribcage, making my heart skip a beat. It was as if the music had a life of its own, demanding my attention, commanding my body to move in sync with its rhythm. Vibrations pulsed through the floor, up my legs, into my teeth. The entire room seemed to vibrate with the energy of the music, a living, breathing entity that connected everyone in the club. The floor beneath me felt like it was alive, each thump of the bass sending shockwaves through my body. This wasn't just music, it was a living, breathing entity. The DJ was its master, orchestrating the beats with a precision that was almost supernatural. His hands moved with a fluidity that spoke of years of practice, each twist and turn of the knobs creating a symphony of sound that enveloped the room. The club throbbed around me, a dark cavern of writhing bodies and laser beams. It was a sensory overload, the flashing lights and pounding music creating a kaleidoscope of color and sound. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and cologne, a heady mix that added to the intoxicating atmosphere. Sweat hung heavy in the air, a mix of cheap cologne and something wilder, something primal. It was as if the very essence of the crowd had been distilled into a potent elixir, one that heightened the senses and made every touch, every movement feel electric. I pushed through the throng, each step a minor victory. The crowd was a living, breathing entity, each person moving in time with the music, creating a sea of bodies that ebbed and flowed with the beat. It was a struggle to move, each step requiring effort and determination. The music washed over me, a relentless wave of sound. It was impossible to resist, the beat pulling me in, making me a part of the collective whole. The energy in the room was palpable, a tangible force that connected everyone in the club. It was intoxicating, this collective surrender to the beat. Faces lost in the music, eyes closed, bodies swaying in unison. It was a moment of pure connection, a shared experience that transcended words and brought everyone together in a way that was both primal and profound. Strangers danced with an intimacy usually reserved for lovers, their bodies moving in unison. It was as if the music had broken down the barriers between them, creating a space where they could connect on a deeper level. Each touch, each movement was a testament to the power of the beat. I was a lone molecule in this swirling, pulsing organism. The crowd moved around me, a sea of bodies that seemed to have a life of its own. It was a humbling experience, a reminder of the power of music to bring people together and create a sense of unity. But tonight I was anonymous, free. In this space I could lose myself in the music, let go of my inhibitions and become a part of something larger than myself. It was a liberating feeling, one that I would carry with me long after the night was over. Faces, a blur of ecstatic expressions, flashed in and out of the strobe lights. The energy in the room was palpable, a living, breathing entity that seemed to pulse with the beat of the music. Each flash of light revealed a new moment of joy, a new expression of pure, unadulterated happiness. It was as if the strobe lights were capturing the very essence of the night, freezing it in time for just a split second before moving on to the next. Girls in impossibly high heels and dresses that defied gravity laughed, their eyes sparkling. They moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly, their laughter ringing out like music in the air. Each one was a vision of glamour and beauty, their outfits shimmering under the club lights. They were the queens of the night, ruling their domain with confidence and poise. Their eyes, bright and full of life, told stories of adventure and excitement, of nights spent dancing and laughing until the early hours of the morning. Guys puffed out their chests, peacocks displaying for potential mates. They strutted and posed, each one trying to outdo the other in a silent competition of masculinity. Their movements were deliberate and calculated, each one designed to catch the eye of the women around them. They were the kings of the night, their confidence and bravado on full display. In their eyes, you could see the thrill of the chase, the excitement of the hunt. They were here to impress, to conquer, to win. Everyone was beautiful, everyone was alive. The club was a melting pot of beauty and vitality, a place where everyone came to feel alive. The air was thick with the scent of perfume and sweat, the sound of laughter and music filling every corner. It was a place where worries were left at the door, where the only thing that mattered was the here and now. Each person was a part of the whole, a single thread in the vibrant tapestry of the night. The dance floor was a sea of limbs, a tangled, sweaty mess of humanity. Bodies moved together in a chaotic harmony, each one lost in the music. It was a dance of freedom, of release, of pure, unfiltered emotion. The heat was intense, the air thick with the scent of bodies moving in unison. It was a beautiful chaos, a symphony of movement and sound. Each limb, each movement was a part of the whole, a single note in the song of the night. I let myself be swept along by the current, my own movements growing wilder, less inhibited. The music took over, dictating my every twitch and sway. I was no longer in control, a puppet to the rhythm of the night. Each beat, each note was a command, and I obeyed without question. It was a feeling of freedom, of release, of being completely and utterly alive. I was a part of the whole, a single thread in the vibrant tapestry of the night. The music took over, dictating my every twitch and sway. It was a living, breathing entity, a force that moved through the crowd, touching each person in a different way. The DJ was the conductor, guiding us through the night with a masterful hand. Each beat, each note was a command, and we obeyed without question. It was a dance of freedom, of release, of pure, unfiltered emotion. The music was our guide, our leader, and we followed without hesitation. In the distance, I spotted him, the man in the corner. He was a mystery, a shadow in the light. His eyes were dark, intense, watching the crowd with a keen interest. He was a part of the night, yet separate from it, an observer in a sea of participants. There was something about him, something that drew me in, made me want to know more. He was a puzzle, a riddle waiting to be solved. And in that moment, I knew that my night was about to take a very interesting turn. He stood apart from the crowd, a solitary figure shrouded in shadows. His eyes, dark and intense, followed my every move. A shiver ran down my spine, a mixture of unease and something else, something I couldn't quite place. I tried to ignore him, to lose myself in the music and the movement, but his gaze was a physical presence, a weight on my chest. Who was this guy? What did he want? The music swelled, but the unease in my gut wouldn't fade. Suddenly a body slammed into me. The music was pounding, the lights were flashing, and the crowd was a sea of moving bodies. I was just trying to navigate my way through the throng, holding my drink carefully to avoid any spills. But in a place like this, it was almost inevitable. My drink flew into the air, arcing through the strobe lights before drenching me in sticky, sweet liquid. It was like a scene from a movie, the liquid suspended in mid-air for a split second before gravity took over. The cold splash brought me back to reality, and I felt the sticky mess soak through my clothes. I spun around, ready to unleash a torrent of angry words. It was him, the man who had been watching me from the corner all night. I'd noticed him earlier, his eyes following me as I moved through the crowd. Now here he was, standing right in front of me, the man from the corner. He had an air of mystery about him, something that made him stand out in the crowded club. His presence was almost magnetic, drawing attention without even trying. He stood there, a smirk playing on his lips. It was infuriating, that smirk. It was as if he found the whole situation amusing, as if he had planned it all along. My anger flared hot and bright. I could feel my face heating up, my fists clenching at my sides. I wanted to scream to make him understand just how much he had ruined my night. "What the hell, man?" I shouted, but my words were swallowed by the music. The pounding bass and the chatter of the crowd made it impossible to be heard. I could see his lips moving, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. He leaned in close, his breath hot on my ear. The proximity made my skin crawl, but I stood my ground, refusing to back down. "You should be more careful," he whispered, his voice a low growl. There was something menacing in his tone, something that sent a shiver down my spine. It was a warning, a threat, and a challenge all rolled into one. I knew then that this night was far from over. Section 5, the music stops, tension rises. As if on cue, the music screeched to a halt. The sudden silence was deafening, the energy of the crowd still buzzing in the air. All eyes turned to us, the tension crackling like static electricity. I stared back at the man, my heart pounding in my chest. His smirk had vanished, replaced by a cold, hard expression. The crowd began to murmur, sensing a confrontation brewing. This wasn't how the night was supposed to go. Section 6, a wall of bodies, a flurry of voices. People pressed closer, forming a tight circle around us. The air grew thick with anticipation. I felt trapped, suffocating under the weight of their stares. "You want to do this?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. It was a stupid question, I knew, but I couldn't seem to find any other words. "You started it," he sneered, taking a step closer. "Now finish it." Section 7, Resolution in the Eye of the Storm. Just as I braced myself for the impact, a hand clamped down on the man's shoulder. He spun around, his face contorted in rage, only to find himself face to face with a giant of a man. "Not cool, dude," the giant rumbled, his voice surprisingly gentle for someone his size. "Let it go." The man hesitated, his anger battling with something else in his eyes. Finally, he let out a huff of frustration and stalked off, disappearing into the crowd. Section 8, Back to the Beat. The crowd parted, letting him through. The music started again, a surge of energy that washed over us all. The giant gave me a reassuring nod before melting back into the throng. I stood there for a moment, my heart still racing. The confrontation had lasted only a few minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The music pulsed, beckoning me back into the fray. Section 9, The Morning After. The morning light was a harsh intrusion, piercing through the gaps in my curtains. My head throbbed in time with the faint remnants of the bass drum still echoing in my ears. Last night felt like a distant dream, a surreal and chaotic fever dream. The man in the corner, the confrontation, the giant. It all seemed impossible in the cold light of day.